This week on Let's Cover Korea, is this GenG's year? For real this time. For real. And we'll dive into that and more, the finals over in Hong Kong, and how we think the newest signing for the bros will help out. Let's dive into it. Tigon here alongside Wolf in this week's episode of Let's Cover Korea. It is, March 6th. So the week of March the 2nd, as we just wrapped up Hong Kong. The Hong Kong Finals. It was the finals outside of Korea. That's where we start. Wolf, you got to be hands-on out there with the fans and the stadium, a non-T1 in-person event, and it was pretty sold out, man.
Yeah, so it's been a while since I've gone to Hong Kong. Some people might know this about me because I talk about it a lot, but I used to go to Hong Kong all the time, back in like the about 2011 to 2014 time period. I initially used to go there because it was the most simple way for Americans to get a Chinese visa. It was an agency there that we went through. So, back then you couldn't get visas to China that were multi-year. So it was kind of inconvenient, but I had a lot of work in China, so I would have to go to Hong Kong. But because Hong Kong was so fun, I would often then travel there with my friends, and I would bring people over there and be like, "This place is really cool. It's so unique in terms of its the way it's kind of laid out because it's a very small, very, very small area with a large population. So there's giant apartment complexes. There's a lot of massive buildings that look really cool that you guys have probably seen like on some of our drone shots and stuff that we had on the stream. It's a beautiful city. I've always really liked it. I haven't been though since really like I think 2014 was the last time I was there, which is crazy to me. Just kind of
Yeah.
fell off. Like I stopped going and then I just didn't go for a really long time. Um, Anyway, it was my first time back, so I was really hyped to be there. The city's changed a lot, it's developed a lot. The Kaitak Arena where we were is kind of its own shopping mall. It's connected to this big mall, which has a lot of really cool restaurants and stuff. It's one of the bigger malls I've been to in Hong Kong. So it was really cool to be there. It was really fun for Valdez and I to be there because there's so many different awesome food options there where we were working. But the big story about this event was, and everybody was talking about it during rehearsals and the day before rehearsals when everybody landed, will these seats fill, right? Like, will we actually fill these seats because T1 didn't make it? And I've heard a lot of rumors. I've seen a lot of tweets about this that, and I cannot attest this. It may have happened, but I've heard no one officially say this around me, and nor have I seen evidence of this happening. People were saying that they just told people they could come in for free at the end, like when like basically it was winding down like last 30 minutes and like the line was done. They just told anyone who's outside like, yeah, you can just come in, it's fine. I'm pretty sure that didn't happen, although I've seen a lot of people claiming that's the only reason why seats filled. But what I can tell you is I saw a lot of people, Valdez and I saw a ton of people who were wearing T1 jerseys and who said, we wanted to watch T1. That's why we got on both days, by the way. We wanted to watch T1. That's why we got these tickets, but we're here anyways because we love the LCK. That was like the number one thing I heard from anybody. I wanted to watch T1. It's a shame, but we love the LCK. We love the LCK in its entirety, so we came anyways. And that was the thing that really stuck with me, is that so many of these fans just love the LCK, know the LCK memes. Showmaker on day one was the most popular player by far. Everybody loves Showmaker. Everyone knows the
That's
Kasante
awesome.
meme. Um, and like people have been watching the LCK for a really long time. Like that's why they know Showmaker really well. They know when he won the world championship. There were tons of people with old Damwon jerseys. I don't even know how they got those. They may have
Yeah.
gotten them when they traveled to Korea. People with old Damwon jerseys walking around. A ton of Showmaker jerseys. And the other striking thing, which I guess wouldn't be that shocking to a lot of people, but it might be if you think about it. Obviously the main like non-English spoken language in Hong Kong is Cantonese, but there isn't necessarily like an official Cantonese stream that goes on all the time for the LCK. So most Hong Kong fans watch the English stream. So they watch the global stream that Digon and I are on, that all the normal English commentary is at the LCK. And so they all were super stoked to meet Valdez and I, even though our audio wasn't going out into the venue or anything like that. Um, and no matter where Valdez and I went through the venue, we were kind of hounded by people trying to take photos. Be like, I've been watching you guys for years. And some people were telling Valdez, I've been watching since like UCAS with LS. I've been watching forever, and stuff like that. And So we had to kind of organize a little photo time at the end of the final so we could meet a bunch of people, and we probably took 400 photos. We met, 400 groups of people. Everyone had a story to tell, and I haven't really had that experience in a really long time. Especially when I travel internationally for events, usually the fans aren't able to really access us that much. But at this venue, we had a lot of security. The security was trying to keep people away from us. We're like, no, no, it's cool, it's cool. We can take a photo, it's fine. Um, I haven't really had this experience in a really long time where I'm at a venue and everybody's like, telling their stories about how they watch the LCK, which was it's just crazy. Obviously, this doesn't happen in Korea because Koreans, for the most part, don't watch our stream, and it was again really eye-opening and a reminder that a ton of our viewership is from the Southeast Asia region. There is so much of our viewership is there. I always think about, because in the past, a lot of our viewership would just be Australian because that's, the time zone. Um, I always thought about that as kind of like the main driving force for regional viewership. And then you have a ton of people watching from America, Europe. But the growth of esports in Southeast Asia and in regions like Hong Kong, Vietnam, Philippines is so high that you just have so many fans that are English speaking that do watch our stream in this region. Uh, and they're super passionate, right? And this was so exciting for me. This is the biggest takeaway for this event because the finals and the lower bracket finals practically could have been just emails or text messages, but it was really, really fun to be able to meet all these people, see their passion, and to hear the story of like, yes, I am here for T1. We all knew that a majority of people were getting these tickets for T1. That's why the scalpers were selling them for insane prices and the price dropped when T1 lost. We all know this, right? It's obvious, but they still showed up. And I personally, again, like I said, have no evidence. I've seen no clues or hints to people were just like being pushed in from people outside. Like, yeah, just come check it out. Whatever, it's free, bro. Get in. Like I don't think that actually happened at all. And a ton of people were out in meetings. I don't want to call it meetups, I should say. The Valdez and I saw when we went to get coffee or whatever outside. You could tell there were so many like Discord groups who people who watch the LCK together who are meeting in real life for like the first time and like meeting each other. And there was cosplay and stuff like that. It felt like for me like a BlizzCon or that type of event where this is so big for these Hong Kong fans. They've never had an esports event anywhere close to this size, like period. So many people who are like, we have this niche thing. We're the Hong Kong people who like esports, and like Discord groups and stuff like that, actually meeting in real life, coming to the venue, and like all those people actually turned up like super late to like the games, like 5 minutes before the game's about to go live. They all pour in because they're like hanging out with each other. It was such a cool event in that regard. So that was, I guess, the kind of TLDR of my experience.
Yeah. I mean, and the reason why I bring that up is it shows the light onto Hong Kong, sure, and I think that's awesome, and they did a better than expected job. Like the event went off without too many technical issues on your side. We had the audio charades issue on our side over at Lol Park. Which we solved and figured out, and it was because we had a different type of setup to the connection to Hong Kong. And it ended up being a pretty funny viral moment. I have had people who don't watch LCK all the time send me Instagram reels of it happening and, like Cage was reacting along with us. So I'm glad that we were able to save the segment without audio because we couldn't fix it live, but we figured out it was broken live. But it also just shows it was a test for the big question of will LCK be okay when T1 doesn't make it? Because we've had multiple years now of not only great T1 teams from a competitive side, not only great T1 storylines from a fandom side, but also logistically, T1 has been able to go to every event, which has risen League of Legends, I think, to the top of esports consumption and esports business, all of that. And the viewership was lower, right? The viewership was lower than what it would have been. It was lower than LEC finals, I believe. The LCK finals were, but
Which is
it showed that,
unprecedented for recent times, by the way. That's pretty insane. If
yeah,
if true.
it was. I think they were higher by like 20,000 viewers. Again, the LEC finals had their event at the Barcelona arena, and it looked empty. right? And it felt bad because that was a big talking point. However, there were more people watching it online than ever before. It also was a 5-game series where Caps and Skewmon were playing out of their mind, and our former DRX bench warmer Yehu almost became European lore for defeating Caps. So it took all of that for LEC to have a bigger finals than a 3-0 stomp without T1. And it shows there is a future of the LCK when T1, if T1 doesn't make it out. And that bodes well. That bodes well. And it, like, all of the anecdotal evidence that you're bringing with, well, we were here for T1, but we love the LCK. We know the memes. We know the storylines. We get to see Showmaker, all the old jerseys like that. For reference, at the LCK, when you're around Lol Park, people will wear, like, this year's jersey, maybe last year's jersey, or a Worlds jersey that has, like, all the signatures of the players. But majority of the swag people are wearing this year's jersey. Like, they've got themselves the this year's membership, so they've got this year's jersey as well. So to hear, like, oh, this is our opportunity to dive in there and get our hands-on experience with LCK, I think that's something you can sell across the world. Like, when you think about
Yes.
NFL games now playing in Europe or in Tottenham, uh, people come with jerseys of all kinds. Rarely is it like, all right, Vikings versus Browns. And then, people are wearing Giants jerseys. They're wearing Kansas City Chiefs jerseys because those are the popular teams, Wolf.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, it's true. I think that the LCK is a phenomenon that everyone is aware of, and I think some people are aware of it. Like everyone is aware of it in esports, right? Even if you're like a Rocket League person, you've probably heard of the LCK, right? Because of T1. I think in a lot of ways, because T1 is such a huge org in other games as well. But it's like you can't be an esports person and not have heard of Faker. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everybody knows this at this point. Um, like Faker has been so dominant for so long. I remember when I first started doing the show with Monty and did a talk show with Thorin, like we could almost still like back then kind of entertain the idea, has Faker surpassed Flash? You know, and it's like now if you're asking that question, you're just actually out of your mind. Like,
Yeah.
I come from StarCraft, but like sorry guys, it's been over for a while. The um the amount of people who wore even GenG jerseys who were like, yeah, I'm actually a T1 fan, but I also like GenG. And I asked some of them, I asked like, but isn't that kind of like your rival? And they're like, well, they're the
Yeah.
second best team. I like that. I was like, okay, like to them, they're like, well, that's the second best team to me, so I like them. And interestingly, I actually talked to Arnold about this. And Arnold was like, I saw so many fans because he did like his own fan meets and like Genji had some small activations and stuff there. He was telling me it was shocking to him. He would see a someone wearing a T1 like shirt, like jersey with like a Genji jacket over the top of it. So like wearing both. And he's like, in Korea that's like illegal.
You never do that.
It like doesn't make sense. It's like wearing like I don't know, a Pepsi shirt and a Coke jacket. It's you can't be like, yeah, I support both sides. And so he was shocked. He said he told me he saw a lot of that. And he was like, people just want to see the best teams. They like the LCK so much that like they love the top of the LCK in their minds, and they're like, I want to support both. I'm here for both. Which was just insane. I met this boy who couldn't have been more than like 10 years old, and he was there with his dad, and his dad was like, let's take a picture together, and he was like a little bit shy, didn't want to necessarily take the picture. Like he was trying to act cool, like, I don't need to do this, I don't need to take a picture of the casters. And and like, kind of like it was fine for me and Brennan. We were like, well, I mean, you don't have to, but like, can you like decide so like the other people behind you can get in and take theirs? It was
By the way, everyone, that is, if you've ever want to know what Wolf's like, that's Wolf. It's
yeah.
like, hey, I don't care either way, but stop inconveniencing others, which is now inconveniencing me.
Yeah. So anyway, the point of the story is not that, but that is truly me because I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. Do you want to? Okay, well, we gotta move on. Anyways,
sorry, go.
finally, I just was like, so do you want to take a picture? And then I don't even remember if he said yes or not. To be honest, I don't remember if he took a picture or not. But I because he seemed a little bit uncomfortable because we were kind of trying to push him into to either take a photo or not telling him to leave, but kind of like you got to make a choice. Um, I was like, "Oh, yes, I see you're a GenG fan," because he was wearing the current GenG jersey, and he just looks at me and very confidently says, "No." And I was like, "Well, you're wearing a GenG jersey." And then Valdez kind of looks at me knowingly, and I'm like, "So you're a T1 fan?" And he's like, "Yeah." But, like, he was there to watch the finals, right? So I guess that's why he was wearing a GenG jersey.
Oh, that's such a core memory. That's gonna be a
And,
core memory. Remember that one time we went to the finals? That wasn't that fun? And he's gonna be like, "Dad, don't you remember you made me wear a GenG jersey? I hate this team. I love Faker." Uh, to your point about fans, just from all different esports. Yesterday we had a content shoot for LCK, and I swung by Lol Park because I was picking up some stuff I'd left there, and I saw some white guys there, right? Which I'm like, oh, that's weird. They're at Lol Park. It's open. There are things to do, but not a lot. There's like a Hall of Fame you can walk through, and then we've got the Fanta Steel Darius axe on display. That's about it right now. That's there because it's not during LCK season. It's LCK Cup season. And so the guys were there. I struck up a conversation with them. I was like, "Hey, nice to meet you. I'm the host of LCK." I noticed they didn't quite like be like, "Yeah, I know you or I watch you." I was like, "Are you white guys that watch the Korean broadcast?" Which is cool. That's fine. And then they're like, "Oh, we're visiting a buddy who teaches English in Daegu, which is like where my fiance is from, 4.5 hours away." I'm like, "What are you doing in Seoul?" Uh, they're from Ireland. He's like, "We're big Counter-Strike guys." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." He's like, "But, we figured if we were in the area, we'd go to the biggest place in esports." And so we struck up a conversation, and I could tell the guy wanted to ask me a question. I'm like, "What's up?" He goes, "Have you met Faker?" Like, that was it. These are Counter-Strike guys. We talked a lot about
It's exactly what
vitality
I'm
and the
talking
current, like,
about.
Counter-Strike stuff, and boom, have you met Faker? Like, it was the one question, not like, "Oh, what's it like working here? How's it like moving? Blah, blah, blah." Like, it was, "Have you met Faker?" And I have my pinned tweet on Twitter of me and Faker, and so, like, I have that ready. Boom, I was ready and showed him that. So, I think it's cool to have interactions like that in Lowell Park. Imagine that's what it could be like, but then have the infrastructure of a finals event and put the money behind it, put the lights behind it, have the players go behind it, and then have that ring true. And now it's like, okay, this is a brand new world that LCK can branch on into. Because you and I have been talking. Hey, Philippines next, maybe Australia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, like all these major cities in Southeast Asia. We could go to Vietnam. Sorry, Vietnam. But then beyond
Well,
that,
Vietnam's coming up soon, obviously with the DRX event. So I mean, it's not a
yes,
finals, but like we're already we're on the way.
yeah, and then beyond that, you can get greedy. What if it's like, all right, let's do one in LA. Let's do one in, I don't know, in France. Let's do one in Paris, right? That is now the type of thinking that I think you're able to do. And it it came off pretty well again from a technical standpoint, but it definitely could have been planned better. Definitely could have been planned better with more time. So now that they've done it, it was a success. We're able to figure out what we needed, what we didn't need, what a production company is going to provide that maybe isn't at the LCK tier or is at the LCK tier, so we don't have to provide that stuff. I think they can plan it out further and then make the LCK allow the LCK to tap into the global market that it already has. And I think that bodes well for the league, that bodes well for the teams, that bodes well for us. So just a topic that we wanted to dive into a little bit because this is a place to do it. If you're listening to this podcast, yes, we will break down the matches. Yes, we'll talk about the storylines. Yes, we'll forecast all those things, but also just a little bit of the insight on, I guess, the health of the league, right? Usually whenever you're talking about a league, you're talking about how shit the format is, or why aren't there enough games, or where's the prize pool. But I think from this standpoint, there are a lot of really good learning lessons without a ton of headaches that these types of learning lessons come with.
Yeah, I mean, this is like why we spent a lot of time on this show talking about like the support pool of the LCK. Like this is a problem, like that, diagnosing some other issues the LCK has.
Yeah.
Um, you talked about we will talk about the games, we will talk about the forecast. Like I kind of like looking at these games, kind of like, should we talk about these games? This finals was the least memorable finals like I can think of.
In recent memory.
Last year we had the finals in Lol Park, right, for first stand. We had the game where the Vayne got destroyed. Keen's Vayne got destroyed by Zeus, the Vayne player. Like we had the Vayne cosplay coming out from Wadid. That like that's memorable, you know, like that's a finals that at least a year later I can remember that particular moment from. I can remember that it went the distance. I can remember how hype that was, how we weren't really sure who was going to win. Whereas not only I spent the night before the lower bracket finals telling Valdez, like I told him straight up, I said, this is one of the first times I'm like literally in Hong Kong. Okay. I'm excited for the crowd. We have this massive venue. But I was like, I don't know. I just can't get hyped for the finals. Not the lower bracket finals. The lower bracket finals on paper seemed like it was going to be really interesting. But I was like, don't we all just kind of know like GenG's going to win in the end? And I was like, if it doesn't happen, that is so hype. And it'll save everything. Because I was like, look, if they lose because it's such a foregone conclusion, if BNK rise to the occasion, or D+, you know, at the time I was heavily leaning towards BNK, but we didn't know for sure. I was like, if GenG lose, it's so epic, right? Like this, then it saves everything. And I was like, for me, otherwise, if it's a one-sided GenG win, this finals is going to suck. We all expect that. Every fan is going to just like turn it off after game one and be like, yeah, I'm done with this. Like it's the anti-LEC finals, right? The LEC finals was hype as hell. It was the super giga banger, right? Where no one was sure that it was going to be one of those, but it ended up being extremely epic. And then we have over here at the LCK where it's GenG again, winning again, stomping again, and BNK choked. So let's talk about the finals first a little bit, I guess, and we can talk about the lower bracket finals later. GenG played well. Game one was the only game that was sort of a game. And BNK, I think, in a lot of ways, just straight up did not play well. Like I said on the cast, like I was like, I don't want to call this a choke, but I was kind of trying to call it a choke. They did not play well. They did not play to their potential. They played not to lose, which is always the big like don't play like this, don't do this, don't play with the loser's mentality. And Canyon literally just said like, well, I'm gonna play my best 100 out of 100 and push you guys to the brink and look for every dragon steal, look for every angle, look for every edge and every gank. I'm going to camp a little bit. I'm going to find these angles. I'm going to force you guys to play in an uncomfortable position. Canyon was playing out of his mind, and no one on the side of BNK, I think, was even playing like at an 8 out of 10, in my opinion. I feel like no one played very well. They got in their own heads. And I think after already locking in their first stand qualification and knowing, look, I'm not trying to say that Clemens is a fact or anything, but knowing that they already locked Brazil and that they have a lot of time to prepare there, maybe beat GenG then, or at least have a good showing there. Maybe somebody else beats GenG along the way. It's international GenG. That does happen from time to time. That, you know, that would be the focus. And then this was just a great experience. I don't think that is like the full way anybody came in and sat in those chairs on the final stage. But I do think when you lose that game one the way you did, you're kind of like, maybe this isn't it. Like that's got to be in the back of your mind at least. Like, oh man, this GenG team is just they're firing on all cylinders today. They're better than us. We can't do it because not one single person in the world, right? I think really truly thought and could say like, no, I think BNK is going to win. There were a few people who predicted BNK to win the finals for some reason. I'm not going to get into that, but
G-Sun, Jonah Strong, Pony. Who else? I think that there's one more. I don't remember, but
I don't think it was Pony. I think it was Umpty, right?
Umpty. I
don't think anyone should have been predicting them to win that finals. I think that was an Ox Hail Mary Hanwha Life Esports prediction to where at the end you could be like, I knew. Yeah. But like I don't think any of those people truly believe, I don't think any of those people would have put more than $50 on that prediction because they know it's not true. And that the finals was unfortunately extremely lame as a result. And like we could talk about BNK's own performance. Canyon trying to talk about how much Canyon basically shit on them is the only hype thing. Like Canyon popped off. But then it was just like after Canyon ran the early game, you're like, okay, well they can't win now. This is sad. They will lose painfully. And this is a finals and 10,000 people are in this arena. And I kind of just am ready to go home.
Yeah, because it felt like a lot of the the best team fight was that team fight in game 1 where they did, like, the do-si-do in the mid lane 4v4 for the longest time and got outplayed. GenG were like, "Yeah, we know that you're the hands team. We know that Vikla and Diablo can pop off, and, don't forget, I am Chovy." Like, it was great. It was great to watch that, and then after that and in that game too, in that game as well, that was the game where they gave 0 ban resources to Keen, where he, blinds the top lane, and it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that he was, that unsupported in draft. They decided to give bans to, I think, bot lane for Ruler, and it was just awesome. Like, all of that is a beginning of the series kinda show. And then afterwards, game 2, BNK got the early lead. I think that 3 kills. They're up like 1.8 thousand gold, but they weren't able to transition it to anything because of my third team all pro vote Raptor smites. Right? That was the game where I think the Ash stole it with the volley, and it was just like, oh no, this
They
is not
had
good.
Callista. They had Callista.
Yeah, bro. What is Callista and LCK Cup smite
Now,
syncing going on, man?
in okay, so Valdez and I, like, we talked about this on the cast a little bit,
Yeah.
and we were super disappointed with the volley steal. On one hand, on their defense, obviously when you have a lot of Rens stacks in a dragon and you're just gonna press the buttons at the same time, it's harder to know exactly what the number is, but you know the number's pretty big. So you're like, all right, well, like, we'll just do it in like 3, 2, 1 or whatever, and you calculate it together and you slam it down. But when they don't have any access to the pit, you might as well get it down to like, okay, we know for sure this is gonna hit. And if they just like gave a few more autos, like legit maybe 3 more autos, they would have had it guaranteed. And
Yeah.
like that kind of decision making, that sloppiness was the whole story of the series for me. That's why I was like, it's not a choke, but you just weren't good today.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think miss smiting this is a choke, but like on your best day, you're like, hold on, wait a few more seconds. They literally can't contest this. We have it guaranteed now. Okay, get it. Because the fact that it went over, well, I don't know. I want to say it was like 50 health or 80 health or something on the volley hits, and the steal comes
Wait,
through. It's like,
yeah, well, it was like 100 and then went to like 50 something. So there was 2 ticks. There were 2 ticks of health before the volley hit it. I guess the volley might have been able to take it at 100, but there were still 2 ticks. It was just
yeah.
so sloppy. It was so
And it's just
sloppy.
like, it's just if you just are a little bit more on point, like if you're just thinking a little bit more, that steal never happens. That's not like even the game defining steal. The game defining steal was the canyon steal where on the best where he's just like, let me show you how many dashes I got. And then the funniest shit is like he tries to ult out and gets spell shielded by the Nocturne. And he still gets out, and the Nocturne has to flash the wall to kill him. It's like he's like, I'm out, bye bye.
Yeah.
I got your
Yeah.
dragon and your flash, and then it's like it's just those moments where you could just feel. At least I felt. I don't know. You guys can tell us if I'm wrong in the comments, but I just felt like BNK just weren't locked in. Like they were not in the zone. And Kenya made an incredible play, right? And it was a really risky play, and he executed it well. But it feels like these moments shouldn't have happened, and they
Yeah.
continued to happen as well in Game 3. And like it's just the drafting for GenG was greedy at times, but they played it with confidence. They played it with mastery, so it didn't matter. Like the Keen Gwen pick you mentioned, the Zahin into Renekton also quite greedy. Super low damage composition as well in game 2 with the Ashe Seraphine. They have a lot of CC, they have a lot of tools, but if they fell behind, it would be really, really problematic, right? But they have so many ways to answer the Callista pick. And then the Annie pick was just a stroke of genius. The Wukong Annie classic. Keep it simple, stupid that we talked about for our Rise group teams. It's just like, all right, well, this is very, very easy, very simple, very straightforward. Just play Wukong Annie, and it's a free win against bad teams. And I guess GenG was just like, this is bad team, free win. But they didn't
Yeah.
need to play it like this. They had so many other ways they could have drafted in that third game, but they're like, yeah, let's just keep it simple, straight up. Ruler's gonna pop off on Yunara, shut down Diablo, solution. It'll be fine. And it was. Uh, it's not like Diablo had a terrible day. There was the weird flash. Obviously, the Nico ult and the flash situation was probably his worst individual
Oh,
moment.
yeah.
That was definitely I mean, that was really not it. But it's not like he was doing stuff like that the whole series or just constantly throwing or all inning at the wrong time. He just was outclassed on the day. And I truly believe that the gap between Ruler and Diablo right now is not that huge. Like I really don't think it's that huge. They have different play styles. And Diablo's playstyle is more limited in that he usually does like only min max stuff, whereas Ruler can really is much more strong at judging the situation and slow playing team fights. And the other truth is like Ruler has a stronger team around him, so sometimes he doesn't have to pop off.
Yep.
Like sometimes he's like,
Yep.
I'm not the main character in this team fight, whereas Diablo's like, I have to be the main character in this team fight, every team fight. Uh yeah, I think it just was a matter of GenG was better in general, and GenG were definitely better on the day. And we'll see because I think there's a decent chance. I'm not saying it's what I expect right now, but I'd say maybe I would expect it at this moment in time. We'll see how it looks, but maybe we'll see this rematch in the finals for first stand. Like that could happen. So maybe BNK will have learned a lot, leveled up a lot by then. But it was definitely a everything we talked about with Hong Kong. Everything was amazing, right? So many fans. It was just like the worst part of the whole thing. Like you said, almost no technical issues, which I expected a lot of technical issues working with this company for the first time. Obviously, there's stuff happening remote on the KR and English side.
Yeah.
Besides the charades, like literally only problem with this event is that BNK just got wrecked in the finals. That was the worst thing that happened.
Yeah. That's the thing we can't control. We can't control how the content itself plays out in the world of esports, but everything else pretty okay. Um, Before we dive into, remember there was a third team that was there in Hong Kong, very briefly, very briefly. D plus Kia will chat about them and BNK individually and what we think of them and moving forward in both the LCK regular season and first stand. We have to remind you about our friends over at Raycon. Now, this message is brought to you by Raycon. With spring on the way, it's the perfect time to refresh your routine and spend more time outside. Whether it's going on daily walks, running errands, or just soaking up some fresh air, it's nice to have something that fits effortlessly into your day. Enter the Raycons Essential Open Earbuds. They've been my go to for being out and about because they're in ear. You can listen to music or podcasts while still hearing what's around you, which makes being outside feel easier and more comfortable. The sound stays clear and balanced without feeling closed off from your surroundings. And right now, you can grab them for 20% off. Now, regular earbuds block out everything. You can't hear someone calling your name or a car honking or anything, but these Raycons just sit outside of your ear canal, so you really get to hear the sound, but you can actually hear what's happening around you as well. The awareness is perfect for tackling your fitness resolutions safely. They're really light and the ear hook part rotates so they actually can stay in despite whatever shape your ear is. Worn them at the gym, on walks, doing stuff around the house so they don't fall out and get uncomfortable. And Raycon as a brand has over 3 million customers, and the sound quality is just as good as the more expensive brands. And they're half the price because they're not overdoing it on marketing and all that other extra retail markup stuff. And if you don't like them, they have a 30-day guarantee. So make sure to go check them out. You've heard Wolf and I ring their praises over the years. The latest edition of the Raycon earbuds are just as awesome. So go check out the Essential Open Earbuds, which are perfect for refreshing your routine this year. Go to buyraycon.com/LCK Open to get 20% off. That's buyraycon.com/LCK Open to get 20% off. Thanks to our friends over at Raycon. Always love them. Getting the shipments out here to Korea and putting them on display whenever we can. All
Yeah,
right.
I used them in Hong Kong the whole trip. They keep you very aware of your surroundings, which if you're in Hong Kong,
Definitely
can
need
be
that.
quite bustling city. To keep yourself safe and super durable. Love using them for travel, so it was awesome.
So, Wolf, let's dive into our third team that made it to Hong Kong. The surprise, the Cinderella story before they played the match in Hong Kong. It was the team that defeated T1 and ruined the Scalpers' days. It was D plus Kia who came out and threw out a 3-game stinker, getting swept by BNK. The way that I think I'll remember this is optimistic drafting by CV Max. They were getting things, but they were giving a lot of things back on over and asking. It felt like he was asking a lot of players to get through a certain point of the game that would feel difficult. For example, they gave over Varus, and it was the Yumi Ezreal bot lane that felt difficult. They gave over the Rise in game 2 into, and also a Ashe Seraphine, and then they were like, okay, if Smash gets to late on Ziggs, he'll be able to do a lot of boom boom damage, and Showmaker can play Yone. We think that's a thing, and maybe they'll be able to get that. Also, Aurora as well. Get online later. That didn't quite happen either. And then in game 3, they're like, okay, we get Pantheon, but they're gonna take the Yunara, Lulu, and Nocturne. It just, like that was, and those are your 3 games. It's over. It just felt like if we can get past this part, then we should be okay. And it just didn't really play out that way. And I feel like there are so many times, Wolf, where when we talk about draft, is it the drafter's fault? Well, I mean, we don't know if the team decided that this was the plan, but is this a problem with the draft's fault or a problem with the execution of the draft? And I'm on this is a problem with the draft's fault. If I'm playing bot lane, or if I'm on D Plus's side anywhere, except maybe if I was Chiwoo in the Aurora, I don't want to play that side of the matchup. It's just harder.
It was definitely, I think the players were dealt a rough hand in this setup. With some exceptions, right? Like I think Showmaker playing Azir into Talia is not our favorite right now in terms of like how we look at it, but teams keep doing it. They feel happy to do it, even though like we consider Talia to be somewhat of a counter. I think that one's fine. Like Showmaker probably could have played that one better. The big one is Shio having the Aurora into the Renekton. Yes, it's one of Clear's best champions, arguably his best champion. Like you could put the Gnar and the Renekton almost at the exact same tier. But why does Clear get both of them in games 1 and 2? Like how does that happen? And then Clear just kind of outdoes you on the Renekton into the Aurora. Like outside of lane, his impact was like so much bigger. Like he just did so much more that game, and Shio wasn't able to generate a big enough lead. Like he had a massive CS lead, but it doesn't matter, right? And I think to a certain extent, how do I put this? Like I want to say it's both the draft problem and the execution problem. But I think that if you have a more experienced jungler who can kind of solve the lane prio problems, then this gets a lot more playable. Not to say that Lucid is a bad player by any means, but like if it were Peanut, I'd be like, oh yeah, maybe he can figure this out for you guys. Like he can gank at the right times, he can harass the enemy jungler, he can actually get you through the laning phase, he can babysit you a little bit. His pathing's going to be immaculate. He's going to put some pressure on, BNK in a different way. Lucid just felt like a passenger in this series, frankly, and he was trying to figure it out. Like his 1-7 Pantheon game, that was not our best Pantheon performance. Like you got the Pantheon in the draft, and then the execution here was like really bad. Like you mentioned the Nocturnes on the other side, the Lulu's on the other side, but they got the Pantheon. That should have meant something. It didn't mean anything. Shio was not winning. This is another matchup where it's definitely playable. The Jackson of the Cassante, he was not winning. And as a result, like they couldn't play through the side lane. They couldn't play through the Jax with the Pantheon. The Zoe, which is the other lane for Lucid to try to play through, he had to kind of try to babysit Showmaker and protect him. Showmaker just kept getting dove on the Zoe insides. And that was the thing when we, Valdez and I met some fans after the show. Everyone was talking about Showmaker's Zoe more than anything else. And that the whole series was just like, yeah, I don't know if he should have played that there. He didn't play it well. He was constantly dying insides. Because like everyone it felt like on day one there to see Showmaker. They're like, yeah, I'm a T1 fan, but also Showmaker's my guy. And everyone was like, yeah, Showmaker, he did not. That's like not what I expect from my guy. I don't think all of it was only his fault though. I think it was just draft issue, execution issue. I didn't feel like there was anything in D Plus's setup for the first day. It's almost like they were playing to keep things a little bit loose because they wanted to save what they really had planned for the finals. And they were like, "Oh, we beat T1. This should be fine. Like we're in the right headspace. We can do this." But they didn't have anything great. Like the Ziggs draft Smash, he had like the only real positive KDA that game, but he just didn't. I don't think Ziggs really is strong here into Seraphine and Ashe. Like you're never obviously going to have any power in the lane, and then the shields alone from the Seraphine make it very annoying to play the game. And your burst damage gets healed very quickly as well by the Seraphine. So like once you burst, like you drop your bomb, and if you can't kill everyone instantly with like the Showmaker, Yone, and the Wukong follow up, or like they started off and you finish off with a bomb, if you can't get those kills basically instantly, you're like trying to lob Qs in desperately while everyone's getting healed up, and that Ashe is just ripping your team apart. D plus beat T1 because they had the better draft reads. In my opinion, they did not have the better draft reads here. They just certainly did not, and they did not have the gameplay to back it up. And I almost want to say the person who's probably the most upset about this, or the group that is the most upset about this, is T1. They're probably like, "Damn, maybe I could have had a chance there."
Yeah.
You know, I probably would have beaten BNK this time around. That was the rematch lower bracket finals that I wanted. Because BNK obviously beat T1, if you guys remember, in the playoff bracket before they dropped to lower. Instead, we got this, which was not really anything. So both our lower bracket finals and our grand finals were 3-0 stomps that weren't good and not fun. And it is what it is, you know. Like you said, that's the one part we can't control. It's still early on in the season. You know, it's still early days. Some of the roster synergies being figured out for D plus, I guess, with career still being very inexperienced. But I don't know. What I saw from D plus Kia makes me wonder, like, will they slide? Because what we saw from them a lot of the playoffs was like, okay, maybe this team will actually make Legend Group this time. Now I'm kind of like, we'll see. Like, can they be consistent? That's always the question. Can they make it, you know, to like April, May and still be a top contender? The answer has consistently been no the last few seasons.
So I think the reason why I like to blame the draft here rather than just like blame more of the draft. I think players have definitely culpability here, but not as much as the draft that CV Max and the draft plan that the coaching staff and team decided on. Was that this there are times in series when you're like, hey, this isn't working. When are you going to pivot from it in a best of 5? Usually I'm thinking like when I'm watching like an LCS team at Worlds and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we doing this stupid fucking draft? This isn't working. It goes down to like coaching philosophy of, do you stick with everything that you practiced, or do you see that it isn't working and you go with something that is way less practiced but more meta because it's meta in the middle of a series? How do you want to go out, right? Do you want to go out knowing the way that you play, or do you want to go out trying to adjust? And when I was younger, when I would think about these things, not just with League, but just to sports in general, I'd be like, I want to try to do what they're doing. I want to try clearly, not because this is what they're doing, but clearly because what we're doing isn't working. It hasn't worked twice now. We need to change the strategy. I used to coach football. So like, you know, if we're running the same defense all the time and we're getting cooked, like we need to change something. We need to change something. And now I as I'm older, I'm like, you're only going to do the other thing worse. You're only going to do it worse. So
yeah, if you suddenly change it, it's pretty
yeah,
difficult to pull off.
exactly. And so I think that's why D plus in my mind had the same issue that T1 had when they played BNK, where they had the wrong read going into this series against this specific team or in this meta, but obviously the meta didn't change. So against BNK. And I think if you think of it that way, then all right, they had the wrong read. That's fine. They lost this series, but what helped them get to this point compared to last year is a greater understanding of trust in their prep when they get it right. And I think that was the frustrating part with D plus in the I guess, first half of the season when they were seeding for Legend and Rise Group, they were dropping games to teams that they should have beaten. And I think that was where you're like, uh-oh, like, is this really gonna, be a sixth place team? And they were. They were a sixth place team. Whereas now I think they're beating all the teams they needed to beat, and then they lost to teams that were better than them or better prepped than them. And I think if you think of it that way, they slide in right there in that fourth, fifth spot. And yeah, so that is the way I think about D plus Kia. When we were going into finals, my question was, out of these two bot laners, Diablo and Smash, who who should the world get to see more? But now
Yeah,
that I
that's
think about it, I think it's more about the teams. It's more about the prep and the prep of
exactly.
the teams.
It that was the hype matchup that I was talking with Valdez about the day before. I was like, all right, let's see how the finals goes. I want to force it, but like this is like two up and coming 80 carries who both really got their start last year. Smash wasn't a starter, but came onto the scene and was definitely the more discussed of the two, believe it or not, because of his team that he was on and his position there. And I really wanted to hype up that they both have such similar play styles. They're so like min max, they're so good at like making the all in plays. They're so good that they when they go for the crazy outplays, it almost always works. Like how much of the series will be about that? And then I'm just watching like Smash playing into Varus Karma, playing into Ash Seraphine, playing into Yunara Lulu, and I'm like, well, I guess Smash was kind of handicapped and this one wasn't he, Not to mention that
Yeah,
like he has the weaker of the two supports.
yeah,
So I felt kind of like a story I wanted to tell, I was not allowed to tell.
yeah.
Uh,
We
and
never got there.
like we never got there. I think if we went to, game 4, game 5, if Felio starts coming out, you have that kind of game, maybe that's when we get to really see. But it didn't happen. It's okay, because we both know these players are incredibly good. I think Smash, everyone will acknowledge, had, one hand tied behind his back for this series in a lot of ways. So no one is going to say, well, Smash isn't that good. Did you see that, lower bracket finals? I think he's still going to be one of the most hyped 80 carries coming into the LCK season. But yeah, I felt robbed in so many ways. And, I'm actually kind of surprised we were able to fill this much content talking about both of these finals, to be honest with you,
Yeah,
Degon.
me too.
Because, like,
Me too.
it's I mean, I hope I don't have to witness anything like this again anytime soon, unless it's like first stand finals where it's just what GenG against any team that isn't BNK and just stomping them. I'm like, sure, I guess I'll accept that, for our regional
Yeah,
pride.
yeah.
That's it.
I, yeah. I guess to close it off there, I hope that career can get it together. Because this D plus squad feels so primed. They feel so primed to be able to get the run going. Um, Actually, real quick, Wolf, one more thing. I I I need us to now put Showmaker on notice because it has been like 3 or 4 series in a row that he hasn't played well. And I hate saying that because he played so well last year when everything around him was on fire. At the beginning of this year, Kespa Cup, he was playing well. But this is 3 or 4 series now where he hasn't played well. It's been the youngins kind of carrying him through or career playing so bad that he's taken the brunt of it. That now it's like, okay, Showmaker, you've got 3 parts around you and a very young support who is malleable. You gotta you can cover that. You're the one that has to cover that one. And if not, then it's gonna start affecting you. So hopefully Showmaker will be able to get himself back into form moving into the LCK regular season and getting a break as well. Um, all right. Before we dive into our 2 teams that are moving on to first stand, time to remind you about our friends over at Factor. Now, cold days, big goals, and no time to cook. Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs. So eat well without the planning or the cooking. They've got quality ingredients, functional ingredients, and lean proteins, colorful veggies, and whole food ingredients. and healthy fats. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and no refined seed oils. Meals that fit your goals and schedule, healthier eating, calorie management, and more protein with 100 rotating weekly meals to keep things fresh and delicious through winter. Options include high protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean diet, GLP-1 support, and ready to eat fats. Plus, the new Muscle Pro collection supports strength and recovery. It's so convenient because everything is always fresh, never frozen, and ready in about 2 minutes with no prep and no stress. It's usually the hardest part about cooking. You got to clean everything up afterwards. Not the case with our friends over at Factor. This product has been so great. Enjoyed the usage of it. You know, you put it in the microwave, you're done. With all the co-streaming and everyone here across Last Free Nation, it fits our schedule well and keeps us healthy. So head on over to factormeals.com/LCK50 off and use the code LCK50 off to get 50% off plus free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan. One free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active. Thanks to our friends over at Factor.
Thank you, Factor.
All right. BNK FearX. We don't have to spend too long to it, but I did want to say that a couple of the Korean side LCK analysts, they were on the train. Prince, he was on the train, obviously former Sandbox guy, also former teammate of Vikla. He was on the train pretty early. Pony on the train pretty early as well. But I have to say, I told Prince, if Vikla can show up on the stage, in a crowd, on the road, in a lower bracket finals, then I will trust Vikla. Vikla was my question mark, and he did it. He was better. He got the job done. I will say, he didn't. The whole team didn't look great in the finals, but I feel like I can trust this team now. I think we can put them in there and be like, hey, I think you're a third place team. Like
Yeah,
you're third, fourth, right? Are you the
if
team
Hanwha
behind T1? Yeah.
if Hanwha continued to be just abysmal, then I think that this is very accurate, right? Like we'll see what happens with Hanwha because Hanwha is still a question mark in my mind because they
Yeah.
were out so early. They didn't go to playoffs. They didn't go to play-ins, so we like don't know what their current form is. They could be hyperbolic time chamber like Super Saiyan when they come out, and like they finally figured out how to control Kanavi and make sure that he does not just continually go in by himself and ruin every single team fight. So maybe they'll be a top 3 team. Of our playoff and play-ins teams, to me, they were very clearly our third best team, or sorry, a top 3 team. And for a brief period, like at the very end, obviously a top 2 team. They beat T1. And they beat the team that also beat T1 and D+. So it's a kind of like, yes, I do believe T1 should be in the long term like the better team, but right now, probably still are the third best behind them. So let's see what happens, but I think this team has proven a lot. Like Kellen's not choking anymore. The shot calling is good. The early game is good, but the macro has been the thing that I keep bringing up. This team macros now, like they get an early lead and they're like, all right, well now I actually had a side lane. I had to pressure the enemy jungle. I had to set up vision. Like their vision game has gone like this. Like it's gone up since the beginning of the season. They arguably have like the most oppressive vision game outside of GenG. Like if you watch back their games, watch like their vision. They put a whole line of wards. They put wards behind the objective. And when they take the dragons, like they really mean it. Now they couldn't get that much control against GenG, and they didn't control those dragons against Canyon at all. But they really have improved a lot. So I think this team, I could firmly say I expect to be in the Legend group. Right now, I firmly expect this team to be in the Legend group. I think that much, like anyone could pretty much agree, is the likely outcome that we're going to see in a few months.
Yeah. And that we'll start forecasting later. It shouldn't, even if they crash out at first stand. Let's say the worst happens and they go, whatever, and then they go home first. Right now, Legend Group is looking like GenG, BNK, D+, T1, Hanwha, like Hanwha, KT, really? Yeah, I don't think it's Nongshim, unfortunately. I think Nongshim's out. Is it Jeezy Weezy and the Jiwoo verse? You know, UCal having a resurgence? You know, the supers, right? Like that fourth,
I
fifth
swear
spot.
to God, Dion, if anyone starts to like, if that sixth spot or sorry, fifth spot ends up being like the outcast team again, and then somebody starts asking, would you rather be fifth place group, the legend group, or the sixth place team, the top of the Rise Group? We're like, no, we talked about this a lot. Like, we already solved it. Okay. But
Yeah, but like
KT went to World Finals. All right, it's solved. You'd rather be in the Legend Group. I think you'd rather be in the Legend Group. But anyway, I don't know who that team is going to be. Like, we really just don't know. And it is interesting to discuss because it would be really funny if Han was just like with this super team, like a Rise Group team, because they play
oh
like a
my
Rise
god.
Group team. Like they straight
Yeah.
up play like a Rise Group team. They don't seem that good. They play chaotic. They don't make great decisions. Like suddenly Delight just got turned into a Rise team support where he just goes in at the wrong time or can't follow his jungler. Like no, this shouldn't happen. This is not supposed to happen. But um, we live in a world where like Gumayushi twice 2 years in a row has been like put into the shadows early on in the year, and we don't know like
Yeah.
what he's going to be like when he comes out. Last year when he came out, he popped off. You know, when he
Pretty
came out
good.
from his little break, like he had a great time. Uh, we'll see if that ends up being the case this time around or not. As that's really for me like the X factor as to whether BNK is a top three or not. But I think we have a fun LCK year ahead of us. Like,
Yeah.
yes, we know we have a very clear top team, which we'll get into in a moment, but we don't know where everything else is 100% going to line up.
No. Let's get into it right now. Why is this GenG's year? Why is this different than before, according to the Wolf Schroeder?
So
They are the team that has been in every single finals for the last however long they've been there. They are the team that wins everything except Worlds. But give us the take here. Give us the
here,
analytical take why it's different.
I think there's an attitude shift that I've seen with GenG and with the players especially. Well, I want to frame this by going back a little bit. So last year, the phrase that was kind of a meme, the one that was most attributed to me across our team was just give GenG the trophy, right? This is a thing that I said, I think, starting in Riyadh when we were at the Esports World Cup. And I just
Yeah.
kept, like, we were watching the games and T1 and HLE were playing really bad. And AO was, like, destroying. And I was just like, only one who's going to do is GenG, just give GenG the trophy. It ended up being a well fought, hard fought finals for GenG when they did end up grabbing the trophy there last year.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, I told Arnold about this because Arnold is always around. You know, Arnold's one of the top esports people that we have in Korea, in Korean esports. You know, who talks to the global fans, is very easily accessible. You know, I don't know if he's still in Korea right now. I don't think so, but if he is, like, I could call him and meet him today. Like, he will meet with me. You know what I mean? He's very accessible. So
Yep.
I talked with him a lot. And you know, when I was saying that in Riyadh, he was like, "Please don't say that. Don't jinx it. Like don't do that, Wolf." And then they ended up winning everything except Worlds, right? I spent a lot of time with some of the GenG staff while I was in Hong Kong. Um, Ironically, sometimes just because I ended up running into them at hotel breakfast or something like that, you know. And the whole mindset of the org right now is we have basically done everything. Like LCK Cup, you know, is not on the radar for most top orgs in terms of like you have to win this tournament. There's no prize money, right? It's just straight up a qualifier for first stand. But now they got that one, right? That was the trophy they're missing from last year, at the beginning
Yep.
of the year, and then they have the ending one. But every single person you talk to on GenG is just like, doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. We win everything, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. I need to win worlds. Like we have to do that because this is why I frame this in my cast of the finals. There will always be somebody who's just like, yeah, well, Chovy will choke again when it comes September, so who cares? Like
Yep.
it's always the narrative for this team that can literally do everything, can literally win everything, be the most consistent, break records, have this insane streak, be untouchable, and they won't win Worlds. And everyone's like, yeah, well, I mean, they're just not that good, obviously. So, you know, it is what it is. Because Worlds is the tournament that everyone remembers. As much as we can talk about how LCK is the most important domestic league, I think that everyone would agree with that right now. Like, everyone has got their eyes on it. They know it's the best, blah, blah, blah. Who wins Worlds, though? is the most important. And GenG doesn't even make the finals, right? Like it's KT this time. Again, like defeated, upset by KT, don't go to the finals. And so for the org, internally, they're just like, I don't trust it. I want it to happen. Like last year, everything we were winning everything, and then it just didn't happen. So like, please don't say like I think it's going to be our year this year, because they're all like not really superstitious, but there's like this feeling of I think we deserve this. I think we're ready for this. I think everybody knows we can do this, and yet we just don't do it. So like, what's happening? When I saw Chovy in Hong Kong, walking around the venue, and then especially in his winner's interview, he looks kind of bored. And now I know it was a 3-0 stomp like that they did against BNK. It was, he flew all the way to Hong Kong, had to shoot some content, had to do some fan meets. He's kind of just like, yeah, I mean, we knew we were going to win. Like, this is, I played Annie because I just want to get it over with. This is kind of boring. But his interview, like, his answers weren't even that enthusiastic. And he just kind of overall looked like, yeah, so, like, can you move on to Ruler so I can stop talking, because I'm kind of just pretty over the whole thing. I haven't really seen Chovy act like that at an event before. This is just like this is my anecdotal observations. I'm seeing all this stuff. I'm seeing him walk around the venue, going to bathroom breaks and stuff like that. How calm he looks, and how he like knows this isn't the real battle. He knows this isn't the real challenge. This isn't the real fight. And it feels like, for me, when I watch him, like it's just a total mentality shift, where I think in the past when I'd see him, he had something to prove always. Like, I have to beat T1 again, I have to beat Faker, I have to prove I'm the best. Like, if everyone says Faker is better than me all the time, even though I keep beating him, I keep outperforming him, I'm not as popular as him. I'm reaching here saying that, like, this is my personal expectations, where the pressure I think he's under, that he puts himself under, how I see him, how he carries himself. Right now, he's just like locked in. This is just like step one of 8 steps to me lifting that Worlds trophy later on, and I'm just going to keep doing my thing. I'm going to keep grinding. I'm going to keep being me. And that's what makes me think, again, obviously right now it's very early, but I think this year, especially with how much more consistently GenG's played against like their biggest rival T1, okay, who's in complete disarray right now. And Pays had a great start, but a bit of a fall off there. And Hanwha Life Esports, who's like in complete shambles. Like, T1 looks amazing comparatively. Your biggest rivals are out of the way. KT was like a wild card, weird situation that happened last year. That could arise again. Like, GenG could lose to this unknown force. Like, who knows? It could be the DN Supers. Get him in the World Semis. No World's Trophy again, because DNS. I just don't, I don't think that's what's going to happen. But I think the reason why some of that stuff happened in the past was like, I don't know if I've ever really acknowledged this, but like I do kind of feel like people blame Chovy a lot for their World's losses, like his underperformances there. They say he chokes, whatever. They call him Chokey, right? Like that's the forbidden thing. Like, don't say that. Like that's everyone. Sometimes people write that in the chat. And you're like, oh, that's, that's almost like a slur, right?
Yeah.
But it's not always a choke from Chovy, but he doesn't play like his 10 out of 10. Like what I was talking about with BNK. Sometimes at these finals, I think because of the stress, because of the pressure he's always under. And because he's also like the most famous player on his team, and all the pressure that comes with that, I didn't see any of that at this event. And like maybe I'm overreacting because it's a BNK series that was a walkover. We talked about it earlier in the show. Like, everybody knows they're gonna win, so and then they did, and we're like, yeah, okay. So we were all like 10,000 people came and watched it, and then we left. Like that's kind of how it felt. But his attitude feels different, and so I think with him sometimes being the one who takes a big dip at these Worlds performances, maybe when we get there, like he'll just still be cool. He'll still be calm. He'll be focused. And again, I think with these roster changeups and what we've seen so far, the opposition to stop them, maybe this year it comes from the LPL. I don't know, but the domestic opposition seems so much weaker. And it's more interesting that way because there's all these teams that could maybe be the second best team in the LCK, but I think right now very clearly know who's the first best team. And so like, remember last year, GenG didn't even win LCK Cup, And then like the T1 Hanwha, the two rivals, right? Like they went to 5 against each other. You know, Hanwha did end up beating them in the finals in a 5-game series as well. Then GenG didn't even get to go to first stand. But then after that, it became very GenG favored for a really long time. But now, like, this is like the best we got to stop this team. Like BNK right now, that's what it looks like. Now, who's to say what T1 won't bounce back? They always do, right? Maybe T1 gets
Yep.
another finals and they beat GenG in the finals. But hey, it would be a step up to make the finals if you're GenG. But right now, it's kind of like, is GenG even at their full form at this moment in
Yeah.
time? The roster hasn't changed, but Duro still looks like he gets better and better every week. We just don't know. But I think I feel way better about GenG after watching how they carried themselves and how Chovy carried himself at this event than I did feel about like GenG halfway through the year last year. Where I was like, yeah, they have an insane win streak, but like who knows what could happen at Worlds. I feel much better about GenG right now, if that makes
So
sense.
yeah, I wanted to. You hit a lot of things there, and in terms of reading Chovy's body language, to me, I didn't feel like it was. I guess you could view it as bored. I think it was more of like it was confident. It was like at peace almost. Like he knows this is what you do. He knows this is. I felt like he was more present. Where like this is step one of my master plan. But there was a level of like when they were doing the interviews and they sang happy birthday to him, I think, or I forgot
Yeah.
what it was,
Yeah.
but
His birthday
yeah, it
was
was
like a day or two after the event.
yeah. They sang happy birthday to him. It looked like he was taking it in, like he was taking it in, but not like with big doe-eyed things. Like he's been here before, and it's just now like okay, how many people, how many organizations are it's there's one goal. There's only one goal or it's a failure. There's literally no more silver linings left for GenG and for T1. If you don't win Worlds and you're T1, everything is broken. Then it's bring back Zeus, it's bring back Kuma, bring like, like all of a sudden those things are going to happen. The only other organization that's like that is GenG. There was a period where China was like that, the BLG roster. But even look, BLG roster just brought everyone back. And then they tried that, and then they added Viper, right? So I think there's a level of understanding now because they kept the roster together. I'm a little worried that I don't think that they're done growing, but they are the furthest along alongside with BNK as teams that know what they are, know what they aren't, and then can adjust to the meta. Whereas every other team is trying to figure out who they are, who they're not, and adjust to the meta. Like that, I think, is a lot harder. So
Yeah.
I think it was just more confidence and being more present while understanding there's a longer road to go. I think
It looks to me like he's just
also
ready
with
to get
this,
back on the grind. You know, he's just like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm gonna take my flight back home to Korea, and I'm back to like trying to win the whole thing. You know.
yeah, yeah, because it is a step, a fun step, a good step, but only a step that is part of his world domination plan that hasn't worked the last 4 years, maybe now 3 4 years 3 years I think here. So we'll see what comes out of them. I think the other one is Canyon, right? He was the guy that was under fire the most from last year. His pathing is solid, everything was so solid. He had those steals as well. I think he's going to be key to them keeping success
That's
because Kane is the guy you can rest your hat on. Duro's going to continue to grow, and Ruler's a guy that you can rest your hat on.
I'm a little bit nervous about Canada. That's why I didn't mention him, even though like I talked about how he popped off in the finals. I'm Canada's a part where I'm like, if I'm selling the idea that this is GenG's year, like he's the one where I'm like, all right, Canyon, like make sure you can keep it together. The plays that he made against BNK were incredible, right? They were really impressive. They were super confident. But if you make those plays against a team that is actually at your level on the day, like you can get extremely punished. So I'm not. Maybe he did it because he saw the angle and he was like, "This team is not playing well today. I'm gonna look for this. I'm just gonna humiliate them basically because I know I have the hands to do this, and it's a risk. And even if he dies, right, and the dragon goes over the enemy team, it's not like okay, GG. You know, it was a calculated risk. But those types of
Yeah.
mistakes can cost you bigger against stronger teams. And yes, like BNK seems to be, at least for LCK Cup, second strongest team. So it's like, who's the stronger teams? When other teams improve and get better later, like if Hanwha gets better later, that kind of play, we might be like, can it maybe like, it's not, remember, it's not LCK Cup Finals, like maybe they just play a little safe. But I like that he knows like I can do this, and he goes for it, and like he gets rewarded. And I was shocked to hear, by the way, that and I guess we haven't talked about this yet, that he was one vote away from actually Chovy getting the Finals MVP. Like Chovy had a great series. His anti game was
Yep.
also really fun, but like, and his rise was insane. But come on, like, Canyon was the guy in the finals.
Canyon was the guy. It's game 3 voters right there, which was really annoying. But yeah, Canyon had himself a great series, and I think is the one. He's the one, and I'm with you. I'm nervous because now he's got to prove it, right? He's got to prove it, and we'll see what happens with this GenG team moving forward. Is it first stand success by LCK, or it's a failure, Wolf?
I think so. I do think so. I think if GenG's get stopped here, like if they lose to BLG, it's like, wait, what was all that momentum for? Then we have to reframe it. Is the LCK even strong? Like, because right now it's kind of fun to be like, wow, anyone could be like top 3. Like, that's crazy. Hanwha was the first one eliminated. It's all fun and games until like GenG gets stomped there. We're like, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. Does that mean like if GenG's the best and they got stomped, like GenG does that mean everybody's bad and GenG's only good because everyone's bad? And like, I think the mentality shift that happens for like every LCK fan will be actually monumental. And every LCK hater will be like pulling their Twitter swords out, like, yeah, it's not was my time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think GenG has to win first stand, and I feel confident that they will. But I think if they mess it up, that could be it would definitely reframe our expectations, about it being their year. It's in Brazil. It's hard. It's a lot of travel. Like traveling to Brazil, insane. You also have to get a lot of vaccinations. Like it's a huge process to go to Brazil. And that may affect some of these players' condition, but all of them at this point have traveled enough and have a robust support staff to help them get through that I think it should be okay. But we'll see. Because, every other team has to go through it as well. Especially, LPL has to fly about the same distance to get to Brazil. Maybe some of the other teams a little bit less, but I don't think jet lag is what's going to do GenG in here. I think it's just going to be about the reads on the days.
Speaking of, GenG and people that have moved on from LCK, it is that Viper BLG squad that's already qualified 3-2 over JDG. And don't forget I wouldn't say a scapegoat, but it was a interesting move. The only move that GenG did. Coach Kim and his Weibo squad, they were able to get the upset over anyone's Legends AL over in the LPL, knock them out, and now are 1 win away against JDG and the former core of CFO, Hongq, and Junjia, as well as GOAT coach Tabe. So LPL has a lot of cool stuff that they're playing for as well. Not only their split 1 championship, whoever wins against BLG, but then who's going to get that second seed there. So fun storylines at the upper echelon of Eastern League of Legends. We talk about Western League a lot, Western GOAT, but just when we talk about the best league, a lot of cool things to watch out for. Small note, final note before we head on out. News from my bros. They have foregone the development roster and the development of young mid laner, solo queue prodigy, Brazilian legend Roamer, and have signed former Cloud9 mid laner Loki. Loki moved home after last season and citing like some familial things going on, and he wanted to be closer to home. And now is signed with Breon. So that's shocking and kind of surprising. What do you make of this move here, Wolf?
It's another one of those moves with Bro that where you're like, okay, so we have how many people in this role now? And who and what's going on? Bro, It makes me wonder if like someone in the higher ups of the organization just goes, "Listen, I'm not gonna settle for what's going on right now. You guys, here's some money. You better spend it and fix it." Like it does feel like that is kind of like the bro upper management attitude based on what what they did with Hambach and what we've seen in the past. They just kind of go, here's about like a player's salary. Please use it to buy a player. I heard that Romer guy is not working out. I've seen, I was very happy when you guys signed him. I saw the solo queue stats. I know Fisher has been ill, supposedly, like he's been, in stasis. We don't know where he is. But that Romer guy, good try, but I guess it didn't work. Please find a new mid laner. And then, Loki had to step away for personal issues. I understand, right? Is that I think he like took some time
Yep.
off, and
Yep.
then now he found a home because bro was just like, better get this guy.
Yep.
I did not watch that much Loki during his time on Cloud9. I think a lot of people said he was, he did quite well there.
He
And
did.
I know
He
like
was a stud.
you are, the more of a LCS/LTA, specialist more than I am. That's your home region. Um, I watched some of his games there, but I watched a lot of his games on Hanwha Life and on Hanwha Life's Challenger Squad. And unless he has massively improved, and again, I've seen only a few of the Cloud9 games, I wonder, is he better than Fisher? Like, I think probably not. I think Fisher is better. Fisher is still missing for some reason. He is not coming to Lall Park that I can see, and
Yeah.
there's rumors going around that he's been hospitalized. I don't know. This is all speculation, but he's nowhere to be seen. So it seems like we really. I'm joking about like, oh, they have 3 mid laners now, but like it seems like we really have 2. What if Loki underperforms Romer? Like, what if that happens? Then you spend all this money to get Loki. He might be on minimum salary. We don't know. But you spent this money to get Loki. I mean, minimum salary is still like 50 million won, so it's still money. That might even have gone up this year. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it's at least 50 million won.
Mhm.
So, what if he doesn't do well and the team hasn't played with him yet? Right? Like, he's another moving piece that being pushed into this roster. Then what happens to Bro? Like, Bro, I think what Bro need is to turn. What I thought they needed was to turn Romer into a pro gamer, right? Because
Yeah.
right now he's a solo queuer.
He's a solo queuer. Yeah.
They need to turn him into a pro gamer, right? Like, hey, talk to your team more. Call out vision, call out the enemy jungler. Because when you're a solo queuer, like you already know, in your head, you're like, I know where the jungler is, but I don't have time to type that, and nobody's gonna care. Now voice chat's coming to league, so maybe in solo queue that'll help him a little bit. But like, he doesn't seem like he's sharing information. Some of the times he gets caught or dies in lane because he's ganked because like he isn't asking his teammates like, have you seen the jungler recently? Is he top side, is bottom side? Like I don't have vision, I don't know. Like he needs to get the pro gamer mindset because he's kind of like survivalist solo queue mentality. And he spent a lot of time, obviously, on Hanwha Life as well himself. And I think even before that, Nongsham's academy team, he spent a lot of time in challengers, like trying to learn to get to the pro ropes, but it feels like it didn't click for him. But I think his talent is undeniable, right? Obviously, even though he's been destroyed in mid lane by a lot of people, even without jungle intervention. Um, so doing this just like kind of kills all his momentum that he was trying to build up for. And he was improving, in my opinion. I think he was improving.
Me too.
This kills all that momentum. And like, what will the end result be of this? Like, what if Loki just plays like 4 games and then they're like, nah, I don't think so. Then they put Romer back in. And after all this, Fisher like shows up like Gandalf on the 6th day. And he's just like, all right, actually it's me, by the way, because I've recovered fully. I'm better than both of you clowns because you guys are struggling. Like, what is going on with this roster? I don't like, I'm glad for Loki. I think the TLDR for me is like, guy needed to take some time off, found a home. It would have sucked really bad if he just didn't have a job this whole year, and then people would wonder about his current form because that could otherwise have happened, right? He has no
Yeah.
team for 2026. Even though he's grinding solo queue, people are like, I don't know, he's unreliable. He took a year off. We don't know how good he is right now. So it may be career saving for Loki. Like if he comes in here and actually does well, he overperforms Romer, saves this team, is the best performing player on this roster, brings Bro to relevance, then like career saved, Huge for bro. Would be awesome. Would I expect all of that to happen? Probably not. Would the person who told them to buy this guy higher up, who said, please fix this. Everyone says Romer's bad. He's a bit of a meme. We need to do something about that. Please buy Loki. He really wants that more than anybody. He thinks that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. But, you know, bro management man. Bro man.
Bro
I
man.
hope you're right. I hope you're right, bro man. Congrats on the Hanjin sponsorship. They maybe this now that the Hanjin sponsorship is real and live and official, maybe that's where some of that extra funding came from. Because now they're actually repping one of the biggest companies in Korea in Hanjin. So it's pretty huge for bro. And this could be a new look, new roster, new mid laner, new logo, new team name, Hanjin Brion. Maybe they turn it around.
That's a lot
That's a
of
lot of ifs, maybe.
yeah,
A lot of
a lot of conditions. Yeah, man, I'm a true bro gig in chat. I just check the box and sign my name. I don't actually read the terms and conditions.
What do you think? You're the bro guy, right? I mean, like, what do you think about this thing? You also know Loki. Like, I feel like you're more qualified to answer this question.
I think Loki grew a lot last year.
He was pushed and forced to communicate, right? He got thrust on a roster where Sven gives ideas, but he's not, you know, Sven and Vulcan they like controlling their side. Like Cloud9, that Cloud9 roster, they like communicating in parts. There isn't a faker or an inspired that kind of like controls everything. They control in parts. And so I think it forced Loki and Thanatos to have to share their information and then decide. Sharing information easy, deciding and taking ownership of that is hard, which is why I think seeing the struggles of Blabber lately is it's been really annoying, and the takes around it has been tough because he takes that. He's the shot caller. He's the one that when it goes right, it's great. When it goes wrong, it's his fault. And so when it goes wrong and people are like, it keeps going wrong, he's the one that takes the ownership of those calls. But I think that getting to see that and be around that in a North American style probably helped him grow way more than being part of a system in Academy, in LCK Academy, where it's a system-based thing, right? Except when you usually have like the efforts of the world that are still there. They're the veteran, they're the young, and so you're just going to listen to them. That's not how it is over in LCS and specifically in Cloud9. So I think him coming back and growing is good, and it gives the team someone else to really lead those calls other than Teddy. And here's where, as a bro fan, I'm a little confused by this move. It's because you're still a Teddy team. I think a Teddy team is a Teddy team is a Teddy team. It is play for scaling, get to 27 minutes. Hopefully you've gotten one Drake so that this 27-minute isn't like Elder Flip. It's like the 5th dragon. And Teddy will carry. That's what it's been. And it feels like the structure is built that way up and down, regardless of if you had Romer, if you had Loki, last year, if you had Biehu, if you had Yukal. That's how the structure of the team was built. And I think that's how the structure of this team will be built until they prove otherwise. The moments that you remember from LCK Cup of the bros are Teddy on Ezreal, kind of landing a ton of skill shots and having the ability to kind of maneuver around. We're talking about Teddy. We didn't talk about casting. We didn't talk about Gideon. We didn't talk about Romer. And, you know, the Goomer is there.
We didn't talk about Namgoon. We didn't talk about Namgoon, no.
Yeah, it just, like, that's what puzzles me on this, because I don't think it's a skill issue. I would have liked to have seen Romer grow. I would have liked to seen Romer be given responsibility of making plays and shot calling for the team, not just within lane. Because we saw it in lane, he got clapped, right? He got clapped a couple times. And I can see when you don't have as many games, and maybe in scrims, that's actually happening too much, where the game, you can't actually play the game. It reminds me of General Sniper in the for 100 Thieves in the top lane, where if he did the coin flip and won, the game's really easy. If he did the coin flip and lost, the game's really hard, and your game plan didn't matter. Now, if that was happening a lot for Romer, then I understand it. Your scrims aren't better because you're not getting to points in games where you can actually practice, macro because there's just a gaping hole in your mid lane. Sure.
Well, how many
And
scrims are
Loki
they
can
getting
fix
is
that.
the other question. Like I think people have this mindset in the past, in my experience from talking to teams across multiple esports. In the past, pretty much everybody would scrim everybody because it's like the right thing to do. I
Yeah.
don't even know if that holds up as much anymore. I've heard a lot of stories of bottom teams not getting scrims. People just being like, "Yeah, no, we're canceling that one," or like it's on the schedule, but the team is just like, "We had some good scrims. We played T1, played D plus. Let's cancel the bro block. Let's do a team building dinner or something instead." Like that happens, like,
Yeah.
and it sucks because if in the past, I think if you're bro, you get to be like, "Oh, that's messed up, man. Like that's goes against the code of honor." But nowadays, I think that's just kind of changed. It's like, well. You had your other scrim blocks, right? You got some scrims today. We have, it's a little late.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I can tell you that in LCS in 2018 on Golden Guardians, that happened to us. We were getting scrims against LLA teams and academy teams and collegiate teams, and maybe we would get a sniff from like 8th, 9th place. That was about it.
it's tough to grow. It really is tough to grow in Korea. And I think it's very obvious when you see the kind of big tier gaps we have across the league. Oftentimes, sometimes it's like T1 Hanwha, GenG, and then a tier break. Sometimes it's like GenG, then a tier break, then Hanwha, then a tier break, then T1, then a tier break, or whatever the case may be. But like then you go to like last year and you're like, okay, and then we go to KT and we're like, whoa, they're like way down there. Obviously they ended up turning it around. They had a great run, but yeah, bro it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. I think Loki, he could be the guy who, like I said, he has the biggest opportunity. Like if I think of any player right now coming into LCK Cup, this guy's one of the big question marks, one of the biggest opportunities. If he pops off, if the shot calling ideas you're talking about, this team needs a little bit of, is there, maybe the team can change their identity, being like a little bit more like it's UCal and Teddy instead of just it's Teddy only, like that kind of concept. Because UCal had his moments, Loki could have his moments here as well. And if they can play around making sure these early objectives are secured so that they can survive long enough to have that 27-minute dragon that isn't, game losing for them if Teddy's not online yet.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what makes this team relevant. I said it many times. I think casting is actually better than people think. I think Gideon is very good. I think this team is not doomed. Like it's not even necessarily going to be the 10th place team if they can get their act together. Namgung, I don't know about that one, but the rest of it, playable. The rest of it's playable.
We'll see. I wish I could be more, but I won't be able to tell. They are clearly 10th. We are clearly the worst team in LCK. I mean, we talked about all the teams that could potentially be the 5th team. I think all other teams have the chance of being the 5th team. Maybe not Nongshim. Maybe not. But definitely the only team that is definitely not are the Bros. And that's how we're going to end this episode of Let's Cover Korea. Great finals in terms of logistics. Maybe not so much in terms of gameplay, but we were able to dive on into that and what this means for LCK moving forward. We will cover a little bit of First Stand. Wolf and I will chat with the squad and figure out how we want to get episodes out there. But BNK and GenG move on over as favorites to Brazil in the 140 person capacity Brazil arena, which is that was their own thing.
Yeah, I was
we'll
like, look,
some of those
we talked about how awesome Hong Kong was, and I really didn't want to just be like, and over here,
I don't mind that. I don't mind that.
I just
it's not Brazil's fault. It's not Brazilian fans' fault. That is poor planning. That's just poor planning.
Law Park is an iconic arena, so when we had First Stand in Law Park last year, that made sense. It's our domestic arena, but like, we're bringing it to Korea. It's the first tournament we're doing this of this type, and it was obviously sold out and everything was great. I think we could have tried to, and I say we as if I have any stake or any control over this.
Yeah, well, your fault.
I think it would have been nice to just partner with a city, that has something to offer back arena wise, and we know how passionate Brazilian fans are, and I feel really bad
Yes.
for that. I feel really
Yes.
bad for.
I
That's the worst.
just why could you not have the finals somewhere, right? Like that to me is the question mark. Like why couldn't you have the in-stadium portion later on? And they're like, well, you know, it's supposed to be a lightweight, it gets the international matches. And I think that's true, but then you have to like that needs to be clearly stated. This is for international competition. We want more international competition to be there. Blah blah blah. I still think you can get a football state, a basketball state, something. You can get something that would have gotten more fans and getting the idea of what Brazilian fandom is like, because it is great. It is very passionate. But it is what it is. This is now going outside of LCK zone area that I don't have purview in, neither does Wolf, and we will keep that for First Stand, the matches themselves, and how it'll all shake out in our next episode. If you haven't already, like and subscribe here across all different platforms, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.